So I'm scrolling through Instagram and I come across a post from Ariel Hawani. And I look at it and it says Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. And as soon as I see it, man, I start to chuckle to myself and I think, man, Jake Paul did it again. This man is brilliant. Think about this for a minute. He goes on this run and starts to get famous in boxing. And who is he fighting? He's fighting Ben Askren. He's fighting Tyron Woodley. Eventually, he runs into Tommy Fury, the first man who's a professional boxer. Before then, we saw this progression, right? But think about the progression. Ben Askren, an MMA fighter with a name who can't fight. Then we saw a fight Tyron Woodley, a guy who's a little bit better, a former champion, known for throwing his hands, but not known for being some, deadly, ridiculous dude with it. Then he goes in and fights Anderson Silva, a man who was widely considered the GOAT for a long time prior to John Jones, but a man who was a beautiful striker. He had been going all through MMA, just tearing people apart, but let's be honest with each other. He's been knocked out a few times, so he's not quite what he was. He's pretty old, right? We're talking upper 40s. He doesn't have the punch and all this kind of stuff like that, so he goes in there, and it's a very competitive fight. So we're seeing this progression of better fighters, but we're not seeing him fight professional boxers. We're seeing him fight MMA fighters, but he is progressing. Then he runs in there against Tommy Fury. The first time that he's fighting a guy who's a professional boxer, comes up short, split decision. And we saw the way in which he lost. He lost like you would expect a guy to lose to a professional boxer when you're not a professional boxer. Like, I thought he was going to win going into the fight, but he didn't. He ended up losing because of the jab. He couldn't get the right hand off. End of the night, when it was all said and done, he ended up with the loss. Now, we didn't hear much publicity going into this one, and that's one of the things that surprised me. If you would have told me that we were going to see a fight between Jake Paul and Nate Diaz, I would have thought for sure that we would have seen this negotiated in the media for at least a little while before everything was all signed, sealed, and delivered, and we were going to actually get a date, arena, everything like that. That wasn't the case at all. For as big as this fight's going to be, I don't know, maybe I was out of the loop or something, but it felt like it was really quiet, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, boom, we get the announcement that we're getting this fight. And I just think it's great, man, because Jake Paul knows exactly what he's doing. He goes in there and he loses to a professional boxer, but he needs to keep his name going. He needs to keep the buzz around him. So what does he do? He goes back to exactly what works for him. He's fighting an MMA guy who's known for his hands, right? But it's not just any MMA guys. It's Nate Diaz, a guy who's widely loved, super popular, but he's been really inactive. He's taken a lot of punishment in his career. Think about that for a minute. He's following a script. Like, I'm not necessarily coming out here right now and saying that Jake Paul's going to win this fight. That's not why I'm saying this. What I'm saying is, in Jake Paul's eyes, he's going out there and he's going back to what works for him. Dude, this is going to be an interesting fight, too, because you think about this. If you're just talking about straight boxing, traditional boxing, using traditional techniques, I think in a lot of ways that you could look and you could say, Jake Paul's got Nate Diaz. But on the flip side of that, you would say, Nate Diaz has far more fighting experience. We've heard the stories about how he sparred. He's been in sparring with guys like Andre Ward. We've heard Andre Ward talk about it and say that, Nate Diaz can hold his own when he's in the boxing ring. We've seen what he's done with his hands in MMA fights, which is no small feat. I mean, it's funny. I remember after this fight, Nate Diaz, I don't know if it was after the Conor McGregor fight or something like this, but he gets a submission. He's like, look, man, you see a lot of these submissions on my records, and you just see a lack of knockouts, and guys think that I can't get it done. They think that I don't have power. They think I can't get it done with my hands. But the truth of the matter is, I go in there and I hurt guys with my hands. They turn into wrestlers, and then once they shoot, I get the submission. And and that's not necessarily wrong. And the perfect example of Nate Diaz and what he's about and how he does things with his hands and everything else is that first fight with Conor McGregor. I mean, dude, Nate Diaz is not known for his defense. He gets hit early. He gets hit often. He gets hit with big shots. Dude's got a rock solid super granite chin. And Conor McGregor was lighting him up early and often, right? Hitting him with some ferocious left hands. Nate ate all of them. And with great cardio, with great durability, he was able to withstand all of that. He ends up coming through. He ends up lighting up Conor McGregor on the feet with the right hook. Few more shots. Conor McGregor shoots. Nate Diaz gets the submission. Right? That's the Nate Diaz that we think about. Now, look, obviously we know that submissions and shooting and all that wouldn't be going on in anything here, but the fact of the matter remains that when you're talking about Nate Diaz, you're talking about a guy who's got some very skilled boxing. It doesn't necessarily look the prettiest, but he's the type of guy who just knows how to go in there and gets his shot off. He knows how to go in there and put it together, and he's got this really unique style that if you've never seen it before, if you've never dealt with it, it's hard to get people in the gym that are going to replicate it. And then when you go, all of a sudden you get there on fight night, you're trying to figure it out for a little bit. It's only an 8-round fight. Nate Diaz has incredible cardio, dude. He'll go out there and throw 100 punches every round, and as soon as he gets you in trouble, as soon as he thinks he sees a weakness, he's gonna go from throwing all of that huge amount of work rate punches at 50%, and all of a sudden he's just gonna crank it up and start throwing punches at 70, 80, 90%, trying to get you out of there. It's what he's known for, dude. When it works beautifully. Now, the fact of the matter is, you got to keep a few things in mind. Number one, Nate Diaz is going to be far older than Jake Paul. Far older. He's been inactive in his MMA career. Didn't fight in 2020, only fought once in 2021 and once in 2022. He's taken a lot of punishment in his career. How invested is he going to be when he gets in there? Right? These are all questions that we got to ask ourselves. Right? Not only when we're thinking about the technique and how the styles are going to match up, but these are some other things that we have to factor. Like, dude, this is but I'm super intrigued. As soon as I saw it, as soon as I saw these names pop up, I was like, man, this is going to be a good fight. This is going to be an entertaining fight. I think the build-up to the fight is going to be really entertaining. Both of these men are known for saying what's on their mind. We'll put it like that. So I'm really intrigued. I'm looking forward to it. What do you guys think? I mean, when you heard this, were you immediately excited? Were you surprised at how fast it all developed? And how do you think this one's going to play out? Let me know.